Hi, and welcome to the NVR Non-Violent Resistance series of small webcasts. My name is Claire O'Donovan. I'm a family engagement worker and an NVR accredited practitioner. Southampton City Council have asked me to put together this series of short videos to help families who are struggling with challenging behaviours from their children. Okay, welcome back. This next short video is going to be based around de-escalation. De-escalation is core to NVR. By bringing some sort of sense of calmness to our approach to challenging the behaviour, enables us to get our point across more effectively and get more heard, and be more heard as parents. There are two types of escalation which can be identified through the NVR approaches. One, an asymmetrical escalation to a problem or a behaviour is when the parent just tends to give in. So the next time the child will push and push more, the punishments won't work anymore for challenging the behaviour. The parent gets to a point where they have nowhere to go, nothing to kind of reach for other than what they've already tried, so they'll just give in. And the one time you give in, your child will know that if they escalate their behaviour to that point again, you're going to crack. The symmetrical escalation is getting drawn in, starting to argue, raised voices, shouting, ended up bribery, grounding them. At some point, your child is just going to say they don't care, and you're going to take something away, or you're going to get to a point where you've taken everything away, and it's not changed anything. Behaviour will keep escalating and escalating and escalating as to achieve what they're trying to achieve. If we want to try and challenge some of these behaviours, we have to start with ourselves as well. So not getting drawn in, don't allow them to press your buttons, if you like, to the point where you react and get angry. The sense of control that you can find within yourself to be able to stand in front of a screaming teenager who's up in your face, probably calling you all sorts of names under the sun, and just calmly look at them and go, "Are you finished?" Is a sense of kind of, being able to do that have that self-control. You're not drawing me in. I've got control of myself, and no matter what you say or do, that's not changing. That's kind of the thing that we try and instigate in our parents in the groups, and that's what I'm hoping that you guys can get out of from learning some of these skills, is to feel that you're in control of these situations and you can't get drawn in. Connection before correction, we touched on it slightly in the last little webcast. Engaging when they're starting to get upset, when they're starting to function in their downstairs brain. Using phrases like, "I can see that you're getting red in the face," or tapping your feet, or clicking your fingers. Most people, including our young people and our children, will have some sort of indication on a physical level that they're starting to get to the point where they're going to kick off. If you can start recognising that and say to them, it looks like you're feeling upset or frustrated or scared or anything, identify that feeling for them, then you will help to show empathy for their feelings. And it means your child then feels like you're listening. You may not agree with them, but they need to feel at least heard and valued. Use guided breathing techniques to help them calm if you can, or try and distract them with something that's almost outside of the remit of where you are, like just something irrelevant, something from nowhere. You can use distraction techniques that just take them away onto a different subject. They may be starting to get all upset and anxious about something, and you just go, "Actually, do you know what? Come and help me make this." Or why don't we do this puzzle instead? We use this quite a lot with young children. We do it as parents all the time when we've got little ones. Leave that, come on, let's go and do this instead. I think sometimes we forget that we can use those techniques on the developing brain as much as we can do for teenagers, as much as we can do for your little ones as well. What you're trying to do is you're trying to kick that upstairs brain back in, distract them, bring them back in the room. And then you can work with whatever's going on. When rational thought is back. There are a number of NVR-related de-escalation techniques. To just explain these, the first one, strike while the iron is cold. When you are in a heightened state of emotional outburst, if you like, meltdown. Not only are you not thinking or really hearing or rationally deciding what behaviour you're going to do, but there's also probably no point trying to challenge it at that point either. You need to wait until things have calmed down. In a minute, on one of the other slides, I'm going to show you a little kind of line that indicates when is the best time to sort of intervene. But for now, just hold on to the thought that striking while the iron is cold means waiting until things have settled and everybody is in a less emotionally aroused space in their head. The rule of one. As parents, I think often we kind of repeat ourselves over and over and over again. Get your shoes on. Told you get your shoes on. Get out of bed. Told you get out of bed. Come on, get out of bed. The only person really that's winding up is us. Our young people aren't really listening every 3 seconds when we give them the same order over and over again. The rule of one enables you to kind of be clear and concise. Give it boundaries, give it time. I need you to put your shoes on. You've got 10 minutes, and then we're leaving the house. You don't need to repeat that. You might want to say it might want to say it once again, going, you've got 5 minutes now, and then we're leaving the house. I need you to put your shoes on before we go. Yeah. If they don't put their shoes on before you leave the house, but they haven't got any shoes on. Take them with you because they won't want to walk outside for long without any shoes on. But my point is that the more we repeat ourselves over and over and over again, the only thing that we're doing is boring ourselves and winding ourselves up. Autopilot statements, these will buy you time. So if you're being asked a question that you're not sure whether you want to say yes or no to, use an autopilot statement like, okay, let me have a chat with your dad when he gets in. Or let me just finish doing this and I'll come back to you. Buy yourself some thinking time. Maybe do some investigations. You've got a teenager that's asking they can go for a sleepover or they've got a party at a mate's. You might not want to say yes straight away because you might not really know where they're going or who they're going with. But saying no will probably get an escalation because you haven't really justified why you've said no. So autopilot statements will buy you time. So you can make the phone calls, maybe contact a friend of a friend that might be going along to this party, do a bit more digging. Make an informed yes or no response that you can then explain to your child. If it's no, then at least you can explain why it's no. As adults, if we were just told something, do something, if my boss walked in and just dumped a load of work on my desk and went, can you do that? And I went, why? Well, I need it. Okay, but I'm also doing all of this. Well, just get on with it. That would get my back up, and I bet it would everybody else's. However, if he walked in and said, I know you're busy, I'm really sorry, but can you do this? We just need it for the end of tomorrow. That's different. At least then I've got an explanation why they need it, when they need it. And that's what we should do with our young people too. Also, autopilot statements can be things like to give you the opportunity to discuss things with maybe a partner or whatever. But ultimately, it's all about buying you time. Diversions and distractions, they're great ones. Humour, anything like that. Anything that just diverts the process of thinking when your child is starting to get themselves all worked up and frustrated about something. Distraction, kicking that brain back in, will work wonders. It will enable them to start settling themselves down, calm down, without you needing to intervene. Quiet and calm tone, clear requests. Sometimes as parents, I think we over-explain ourselves. Explanation, yeah, is important, but we don't need to over-explain the ins and outs of everything that we're concerned about. They just need to be really clearly understood of why we're saying something. It doesn't need to be 5,000 words. They don't need a 10-minute lecture when you've made a decision on something. Start requests rather than stop requests. These are great, especially for the younger ones. Instead of saying, please stop doing that, use words like, can you start doing this? So, an example of that would be, instead of saying, stop playing your Xbox, use phrases like, can you come and start eating your dinner? It's easier to respond to a start than it is a stop. And also be rational. We have to give them time. If you were watching a programme and I was to walk into your lounge and just turn your TV off and go, come on, then we're going out, you would not be happy with me. Yeah, but we do these sorts of things to our children often. There's an expectation, well, I'm ready, so should you be. Sometimes we might need to, recognise what they're doing, work together. How long are you going to be doing that? Okay, so we're going to go in 15 minutes. That's because you've got 15 minutes to finish that. Yeah, it's respectful. We would want it done to us, and we need to demonstrate it to them. Staying curious. I wonder if. It's a great question. And it helps them to learn, and we've touched on this, previously. Curiosity and wanting to understand and establish a relationship with them will make them feel valued, and that's crucial. Being consistent, as you may have seen right in the beginning, this persistence in MVR approaches means you have to be consistent. This is not a quick fix. If you decide that you're going to demonstrate, you're going to respond to a certain behaviour in a certain way, every time they do that, you're going to have to respond to it the same way. It's, pick what's right for you, pick what's right in your house. Only you will know how your children will respond to how you react to them. So, there's no point me standing there going, you could try this or you could try that, because you need to work that out for yourselves. But whatever it is you decide to do, hopefully, calmly, and in a timely manner, make sure you do it all the time, or try at least. We all make mistakes. But then also it's important when we do make mistakes as parents to be able to turn around and go, I shouldn't have done it like that. That's, our children will be more able to recognise their own mistakes when we show them that we make them too. So I mentioned about this line. What you'll see is that there's no actual time. There's no actual kind of numbers along the timeline, because the process of being able to calm and settle varies from child to child. Some children take days before they get to a place where they can kind of think and talk about an incident or a behaviour. Some children may get there in, 45 minutes. Yeah, but you again will either know or need to try and work out how long it takes for your child to be in a place where they can start having a conversation, or at least begin to realise and empathise with how their behaviour affected someone. When they're young, they often won't be able to hear or remember what behaviour they had when they were melting down. They may not remember biting you. They may not remember kicking or throwing things or hitting stuff. And what you're not trying to do is you're not trying to get them to recall it, and you're not trying to shame them into feeling bad about it. What we're trying to do is we're trying to help them develop a sense of empathy so that they understand that when they bit you, that hurt and that made you sad. Whether or not they then apologise for it is almost irrelevant. What they need to understand is how it makes other people feel, and that's just telling them that and explaining that will eventually go in. But there is no point trying to get them to listen or understand or empathise or even hear how you feel when they're up at that top peak, when they're hitting out and kicking. This is an emotional baseline. There will be a trigger and then things will build. If you can catch them here and distract them, then you're unlikely to get them to there. They probably won't explode as big as they might have done. When they're winding down and they're calming down, again, this is not a time to kind of intervene. This is probably the worst time to do anything, because you'll just go straight back up to here. A lot of parents that I talk to, they say to me, I can't talk to them about it because it just kicks right off again. But we'll then leave it. We'll leave it for a while, until you're in a good place, until you're having some good times with each other and you're having some settled time. And then just mention it. That was out of order actually. Don't make a big deal out of it. Don't hash it up again. Don't start pointing fingers and having arguments about it. Just point it out. The more you point out these things, the more they will start to understand that actually that's not okay. The chances are you might get some children as well when they're in their post-peak dip. That will often be when they've burst into tears or fallen asleep. Yeah, because that crash of the chemical imbalance in their brains will often just send them into just shut down. Again, there's no point trying to get in there then, even though they might look calm, because they're still not settled into their balance yet. You need to wait until they get back to this line when they've got their emotional baseline, when things are really settled. Finally, natural consequences, not punishments, is the MVR way. The chances are that you've probably taken stuff away or, sent them off to stay with nanny for a bit, something like that. It's probably not working. If it was working, then you wouldn't be watching this. Taking things away and punishing your young person isn't going to make any difference, because at the point where they've got nothing to lose, why would they care? What we do with the MVR approaches is that we get parents to identify what the natural consequences are for the behaviours that they're seeing. In a calm manner, we are pointing out to our young people and our children that if they do a certain behaviour, the consequence will be that. It might be the loss of a friend if they hit someone, or if they lie, it might be that their friends don't want to hang out with them anymore, they'll be isolated. Yeah? It might be that if they won't eat their dinner, then they'll be hungry. It could be that if they won't put their coat on, then they'll get cold. But there are certain things that will happen if they make those choices, and ultimately they need to learn and make those choices, make those mistakes before they will learn. The other thing, we don't need to step in as parents. We shouldn't step in and save our children from consequences. It's really easy to do. If you've got a child that's maybe struggling with a friendship or something, it's easy to get involved. But actually they need to learn that their behaviour has consequences, as does somebody else's. If they do commit a crime or an antisocial behaviour in a community, there are consequences to that. If they were to assault somebody, or if they were to steal something, or if they were to smash something up, there are consequences to that, and they need to understand and have them. In the same way in your home, I talk a lot to parents of teenagers that feel that they will just, the teenagers will smash up their stuff. They'll run off, they'll get right up in their face. They'll shove them around maybe even, hit them. This behaviour is not acceptable in a family home between a parent and a child, regardless. It's not acceptable if anyone else does it, and it's certainly not acceptable if they do. There are agencies and services and help out there. There are consequences for them in behaving that way, and they need to be exposed to those. A lot of parents won't reach out and ask for help because they feel like they're worried about being judged. Or they don't want to call the police on their own son when they've just smashed up their telly, because that's not what you do. But actually, if we shield our children from the consequences of their behaviours, they won't change. From an MVR point of view, consequences are natural, and everybody has them. Teaching our children how to recognise those is key. Again, these things take time. The child will sometimes make the same mistake over and over and over before they change their behaviour. But that's okay. That's how we learn. And the consequences needs to be the same. So, as an example, you phone the police. They're kicking right off, they're getting up in your face, you phone the police, they've come and attended. The next time they do it, you don't phone the police. So then they're not learning anything. Yeah. They steal something from Tesco's. The first time they do it, you take them back down there, you make them hand it over. And then they do it again a couple of months later because it's cool and they've forgotten all about the first one, so you have to do it again. Every time you do it, they will always learn. Well, gradually. There are always natural consequences to everything. Point it out. It's a bit like that kind of, I told you you'd get cold if you didn't put a coat on, and now you're cold. You should have put a coat on. Point them out. They have to learn. But they have to learn by making their own mistakes. And we need to not protect them from that. Hopefully, that's been a little bit helpful. Maybe you can think about how to de-escalate in your own home using some of those skills, using some of those techniques. Ultimately, bottom line is, buy yourself some time, respond calmly to their behaviour. Because if you escalate your behaviour, they're blatantly going to escalate theirs. Thank you for watching.